Good evening. I will now call to order the Smyrna Municipal Planning Commission meeting for April 7th, 2020. We will be led in prayer by Tony, and Andrew's going to lead us in the pledge.
Let's pray. Most gracious Father, we just thank you again for this opportunity to come before you, and Father, to do the business of the town. Father, we thank you for this country and for this town, and just believe they're the greatest in this world. Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to serve, and we just ask that you guide us in all of our actions and deliberations, and that we'll be done for the best interests of this community, Father, and always, and bring glory to you. Father, in all things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tony and Andrew. Kevin, citizens' comments?
None tonight.
The next agenda item is approval of the minutes of the March 3rd, 2022 meeting. Counselor, are the minutes in order?
They are in order as to form.
Commission, have everybody had a chance to review them? Any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Further discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We're now on to new business. The first is a rezoning request. Alan Jones, 835 Isabella Lane, PUD amendment request.
Yes, this is an existing PUD that was approved several years ago. There was two lots to the PUD. One is developed, which is south of this, which is where the storage building is located. All the rest of the surrounding zoning is C2. This is about 1.76 acres. Land use plan would support a Sam Ridley corridor area here, which would support a combination of retail and service uses. And so the currently approved PUD is for a 15,000 square foot commercial strip center. This amendment would be for an 8,210 square foot restaurant. Either of those would certainly be consistent with our land use plan. The major thoroughfare plan does show Isabella Lane as a collector, and adequate right-of-way does exist already for this street. Again, the PUD amendment is to replace the strip center with a restaurant of about a little over 8,200 square feet. This is a restaurant that's currently not in Smyrna, but so that they're wanting to move to Smyrna and add another store here. We had a couple of comments. Well, comment number 7 was just an informational comment regarding for them, so they're aware of it, that for gas would be located if they needed that, south of Rock Springs Road. But comments 5 and 6 are the two that they are requesting as a part of the PUD amendment that the Planning Commission and Council consider. One would be that the building be allowed to be constructed with a minimum of 75% of our required primary materials, and then 25% accent materials, which is a deviation. Currently what we require is at least 75% of any elevation that faces or is visible from a public street be primary materials, and that the entire building be at least 50%. So they are meeting the overall building requirement as far as that 50% certainly of primary materials. However, the remainder of the building would have to be secondary type materials, with no more than 10% being the accent materials. And so what they're wanting to use is about 25% of the building to be reclaimed wood and metal. Again, those will be allowed under our design review manual at 10% of the total building. So that is something they have requested that you consider. The other deviation from our ordinance is actually our sign ordinance. They are requesting to have more signage than what our ordinance would allow. We would allow for standalone commercial buildings like this, single-use buildings, 200 square feet total signage, and they're proposing about 8 wall signs totaling about 464 square feet. And so those are the two items that they have requested that you all consider for as kind of, within the PUD, you can request those variations. And so those are the two that they have requested. There is a plan in front of you that kind of shows the building and the layout of the building as well as the architectural elevations of the building for you to, and of course, that was in your packet that was on your iPad as well. But there's some renderings and that sort of thing that kind of shows what they're wanting to do. I will point out, just because I did point out the overall building at 75%, some of the elevations are, we have the requirement that 75% of the elevations that are visible from a public street be at 75%. The elevation facing Isabella Lane is actually well in excess of that. It's about 95% brick. But the other, it's kind of a side and a front because of the way the street is. It certainly would be visible from Isabella, which is kind of the main, kind of on the elevations on your desk there, are labeled as one is labeled as a side elevation and one is labeled as kind of the front or entry elevation, and those are not at 75%. One's about 63% brick and one's about 15% brick. So that's, while the overall building is certainly meeting our primary material requirement, those two elevations that are visible from a public street are not, so.
Kevin, with that, for the commission, let's review what are primary materials, what's allowable as far as primary, then what's allowed as an accent.
Yeah, primary, it's basically brick, stone, or glass, like your windows and doors. Secondary is tile, stucco, ephes, the ground face masonry, which is the kind of a textured concrete block, or like a fiber cement board. And then the accent materials, which is no more than 10% of the whole building, standard block, metal, vinyl, or any other material. That's not specifically allowed, basically. Anything else that's not in that primary or secondary list. And so the reclaimed wood and the metal certainly fall under that accent category, which is, again, limited no more than 10% of the entire building.
And a cement fiber board, is that an accent as well?
That's what we call a secondary material. That's, like we have the 75% that we require on any elevation that's visible from a public street, or 50% of the whole building. That the rest of the building basically the rest of the building could be that secondary material if they wanted to, which are the tile and the stucco and the ephes and that sort of thing. The accent material, that's what we had to add several months ago now, with the change in state law, where we couldn't prohibit any materials. And so that's when we added, the standard block, metal, et cetera, at no more than 10% of the entire building.
And then as far as the signage, just looking at the elevations here, I noticed that there's a logo type sign, of course, a Champy's sign, and it looks like some very smaller signs that pretty much are advertising what you might find in the restaurant.
Right. There's multiple signs kind of on several different sides of the building. Like I said, there are about 8 total.
Does anyone have questions for Kevin or staff thus far?
Hey Kevin, this elevation, you said would it predominantly face Isabella?
One of the elevations would, which, let me see if I can. Yeah, that page isn't, it's not numbered, but if you look at the elevations, the one that says, patio elevation, that would actually face directly towards Isabella. And then the one labeled, there's one labeled entry elevation, and there's one labeled side elevation that would be more on the, kind of what would be kind of the north side, kind of facing the Home Depot parking lot and the gas station there. I think more directly, but certainly would be visible from Isabella. And then there's an elevation that they labeled drive-through elevation, which would kind of be the south side, that would be facing the storage building.
So the side facing Isabella's got predominantly approved material.
The side facing Isabella does, yes, sir, but the side facing, and the side on the, that would be visible from Isabella that kind of faces the storage building to the south does. The main concern.
Which are the two main
Yeah,
visible sides
Yeah.
other than the Home Depot parking lot?
yeah, the other one faces kind of the Home Depot parking lot, and it's kind of, there's, the way the building's angled, one of those would kind of face towards Isabella somewhat, which would be kind of that entry elevation. It's kind of points the door kind of angled towards Isabella. If you look at the site plan, which is kind of the second page, the building kind of has that, kind of is angled towards Isabella there, kind of as the main entrance into the building and that sort of thing.
It's really not gonna be, part of this building, it's not gonna be visible. I mean, Home Depot, that parking lot's flat, so you're gonna be able to see from the backside, Isabella and storage. I mean, just a small corner just for the shape of the lot and the building. It's gonna be seen from pretty much every direction.
Yeah, it certainly will be visible. The back side, which is actually, certainly is about almost 98% brick, would be the side directly facing Home Depot building itself. So,
That's where all their rental equipment sits right there too. It's,
yeah.
they're talking about incorporating their own standalone parking
Yes,
when a site plan.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, they're, that's.
They're not counting on Home Depot's parking
No,
space.
that's correct, that's correct. Now, they are sharing access, both of their access are actually shared. There's a shared access with the storage building and a shared access with Home Depot there, but they will have their own standalone parking.
So they won't have their own access off Isabella?
They won't, this lot was designed to be shared with both
That's probably a good
locations.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was this, when the storage building, that access was put in just very recently when the storage building was built. Of course, Home Depot's been there for many years now, but it was, when this subdivision was developed, with Home Depot being the main tenant, obviously the main user, that was planned out at that time, that there would be kind of two access points for these two lots, but they would be shared. Well, all three lots would basically share the two access points.
Well, and with the drive-through, the fact that there's not an access off of Isabella, to me, allows for more stacking
Sure,
off of the roadway.
right.
Or an access next to an access
Yeah.
could be a mess, so.
Other questions for staff?
Kevin, do we have any examples that we can refer this to? I mean, maybe a Logan's or something like that. Is there any Can you think of anything that this kind of matches up with as it's proposed?
Somewhat would be probably the Logans or, trying to think of
Jim and
another.
Nick's, maybe, I don't know, they have some. Is it all brick? They had some wood.
There's quite a bit of brick on Jim and Nick's. Logan's doesn't have much. You know, most of what we've had has, of course, these standards have been revised, obviously. So we certainly have some buildings that have a lot of ephes on them and things like that. Or other, I mean, the Famous Days kind of has some of that type of side, more of a siding type of look on it, some of it. I don't know if we've had anybody do as much, and I will say this is, if you look at other locations in other cities, they've stepped up their game quite a bit from what they normally build, because normally it's almost 100% of the reclaimed metal and wood, so I will say that for them.
But I'd say it's sort of their trademark.
Certainly the look is their trademark,
Right.
there's no doubt about that.
Their restaurant up in Murfreesboro was an old, was it not the old Hooters place or something like that, was it not?
I can remember when it was the Po Folks
Yeah,
That's when it
yeah.
started out.
in the early 80s.
Yeah.
This is much nicer looking
It is.
than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Not taking away from that, but this is quite an improvement
right.
over that, so.
Would it benefit the commission if we would ask if there's a representative out there that we could speak to about this?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there someone here representing Champions? If you could come up, please. Give us your name and address.
My name is Alan Jones. I'm the principal landscape architect and land planner with ASA Engineering, 714 Cherry Street in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
My name is Jessica Aubert. I'm the architect with Studio 323. Our address is 433 Church Street, Southeast Cleveland, Tennessee.
I guess my question is, of course, you see our two struggles up here, where we're over percentages of what is allowable. I want to know get your thoughts on that, and I'm going to also ask you, is there any type of material that could be substituted in that could give the same appearance or look, or, do you guys have any leeway here?
So, well, we created the flagship store for Champy's in 2019, and this will be, I think, the 8th location for a Champy's Chicken. And we're really wanting to create like a brand for Champy's, and that brand isn't only the food, it's like the atmosphere and the Mississippi Delta, jukebox joint kind of place where all of our Champy's have an open deck and reclaimed materials. Everything inside's really eclectic. So our flagship store is 100% what you would consider to be accent materials. There's no brick on it at all. We definitely discussed the secondary materials that you have listed, but the secondary materials are like fiber cement and things that don't really reflect that sort of Delta blues feel that we're going for. And so we opted to make the majority of the building, the 75% of the building, to be brick, to be as closely compliant as we could, and still use the accent materials. The accent materials that I'm showing in the renderings are taken directly, like, made from our flagship store, so that you would have an accurate look at what that would be. And we're just trying to come as closely compliant as possible without compromising what we hope is like a recognizable brand for Champy's. The signage that we're showing, it does have some smaller signs up on the parapet. That's something we used in our flagship store there in East Ridge. It's less. It looks like a lot of signage, I know, compared to, it's about double what you guys have allowed for, but it is about half of what we hope to have on the majority of Champy's. So what we've tried to narrow it down to is just signage. We definitely want to highlight that there is a drive-through We want to highlight, of course, the Champy slogan and the traditional chicken, and then the other two items we put in there were those little 40 and foul signs that are less about advertising for Champy's and more about like the aesthetic and having those signs that you would expect to see in these types of buildings in Mississippi.
And if I can add to that, Mr. Rigsby did point out that, the quote-unquote primary frontage on Isabella Lane is hitting that 95%, primary materials. And then the other sides are facing, it's pretty much I think it's the loading or storage area for Home Depot and also a self-storage facility. So yes, they will be visible from the right-of-way or from, as you're in and about this shopping area. But, we did make a concerted effort to make sure we had that 95% primary on that street frontage because we understand that's important to the town of Smyrna.
And to speak to your question, I'm just not really sure what other materials that we could bring in. We did discuss, I had a meeting and discussed all the materials. The sort of lime washed brick seemed to be most in keeping with what we're trying to do and in keeping with what you're trying to do. So without making the entire building brick, which we would
Sure.
prefer not to do, yeah.
So did you say that the primary store that your original design is no brick? Is that what you're saying?
No brick.
Okay.
It's all the wood and the metal, even on the lower part.
And then, so the materials that we're talking about for this, I'm not sure if we're actually showing any of these pictures, but it's primarily reclaimed wood and tin, right?
Right.
That's. So based on that, I appreciate you working, within our design review requirements and actually changing it significantly, which you did to kind of, get as close as you possibly can. I think the brick with the tin and the reclaimed wood, actually, it's a great aesthetic. I don't have a problem with how it looks at all, and you're close on the percentages. So hearing what you just said, I appreciate you doing what you can to try to work with this.
Kevin, the tower with the thank you, with the chicken logo, is that where we're including that as part of the materials, or is that a sign?
Well, the logo, that would be a sign.
Okay.
That is a big portion of the metal and wood is on that parapet.
I guess that's where I'm heading with this,
Yeah.
when we're looking at percentages, because I'm looking at this and thinking of scale, thinking that a lot of it has to be calculated into that.
Yeah, that's certainly the largest portion. I mean, and that's on that, like I said, that's that elevation that's only about 15% brick, because that's the largest portion of that is the metal and wood is in that elevation. There's some on the others, but that's the largest, certainly the largest percentage.
And I've calculated even the back sides of the tower in my calculations represented.
It's just the tower, then you have kind of the area around the main entrance there. It's really where the bulk of the metal and wood is located on the building.
Well, I'll compliment you on the curb appeal of it. I mean, when you hear reclaimed wood, you automatically think it's not what people think, but the building's quite attractive, and you guys did a good job blending it with the brick. Matter of fact, I think this could be a head start for you on your next one down the road somewhere else.
Well, we appreciate that. We really are pleased with the way it came out also, yeah.
Kevin, on the signs, on the lighting, do we have any restrictions on the lighting for that, for the signs? Because they're showing neon on all of them.
Well, we don't allow for neon signs.
That's what's on the plans.
The ordinance, you can have a neon as like an accent lighting or something like that. I mainly looked at it from the size, what I was looking at and reviewed it. I did notice that, like, I think the logo, the chicken logo, it said neon.
I see 3 here that say neon, so.
Yeah. And if it's just, I guess if it's completely covered and it's just, that's the how they're lighting it internally, and it's covered with a plastic or whatever that the actual sign is.
Looks like it's open.
Yeah,
Just
so,
name Champions is in neon.
yeah, so that would be an issue too, that they would
Okay.
need to, that you would need to include is, if you wanted to approve that portion of their request, recommend it to the council that they approve it, that would need to be added as well, in addition to the size. They are not proposing, I did ask them, and they are not proposing any type of pole or ground sign, it would just be the wall signage. So, 'cause I did want, that would need to be included as well, as far as the square footage, and they're not proposing any of that.
Whether it's on the building or whether it's on a pole, that's your footage for the building, correct?
Yes, that's included in the 200 square feet,
Right.
yeah. You have some flexibility, if you want to do an all wall signage type thing like they're doing.
To use all of it up.
They can certainly do that,
Or break it up?
or break it up.
Okay.
And if they want to have an 80 square foot pole sign, then they can do 120 square feet on the building, you know?
Okay.
So,
Other questions?
So Kevin, if we approve what they're asking for based on the planned development, do they have to go through Board of Zoning Appeals for any of this?
no, that would be something that would be, any ordinance requirements that they want to request a waiver from, they can do that in the PUD, so they would not have to go to BZA. No. You included it, it'll be part of the zoning approval.
That life storage building it would sit in front of is gonna block a lot of it. That's a tall building. And I think this corner down here at some point will develop as well, so I think your sight line off of Rock Springs is at some point blocking anything you can see from that point of view. I know this corner down here behind Home Depot at Isabella, it gets a lot of looks already, so I think it's gonna add to the blockage of that side of the building.
But
The,
it is on a grade too, so
It's
they're up
high
on
up.
top of that hill.
it's high up.
Yeah. They're at the highest point there.
With the frontage to Isabel, and that's the reason I asked the question earlier, that seems to be predominantly the 95% approved material, correct?
That's
So-
correct, yeah.
I think about the other side, at the Home Depot parking lot side, and all that rental equipment right there is not the most attractive thing to be sitting there, so, you know, it's, I don't worry about that side of it as much as I would if it were another business that didn't have all that equipment sitting out in their parking lot. Like I said, it's attractive. It's a good-looking building.
It is.
So,
It's unique, and I think
That's the thing.
your marketing aspect of that is great. I mean, it's going to be, people will know what they're going to when they see it.
As far as the neon for clarification,
Yeah, the sign orders actually doesn't allow for neon signs, so that's certainly something you all could include, or if you wanted to.
yeah, what would be the difference for your design if it were backlit?
I don't really know how to answer that question.
I'm asking for the intentional purpose of the neon itself.
Well, the neon is just part of the aesthetic that Seth Champion's trying to develop with these Champion's chickens is like that.
But would a backlit type of sign suffice? We see it on a lot of our commercial
I
businesses.
understand.
And it looks
I said-
good, it shows
Yeah.
up good at night, so.
That's a hard,
I
a
think,
hard question for me to answer in the moment.
I think the appropriate way to answer that is the preference would be to have the neon sign for the branding that we're looking for. But if that stops this as a potential approval, then, you know, we would consider consider that approach.
If we were to move forward with this, you know, we want it to be unique,
Right.
right? We don't look like everybody else.
The height of the building that's here, is all your equipment going on the roof,
Yes.
so there will be nothing on the ground?
No, it's
Okay.
all concealed by the parapet.
Okay.
And there's plenty, I don't see the chief here. Yeah, there he is, right there. Fire department's looked at this, chief. Do you know, access in behind the building and so forth is adequate?
Yeah, they've got access all the way around the building.
Good.
Any other questions? Let's see.
We're trying to figure out where the dumpster is.
Okay.
I hear this back here.
You good?
That's way off. That's good. I mean, I didn't know that. Okay.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the staff comments.
Okay, I have a motion to approve with staff comments and,
Just for clarification.
yeah, let's
including-
clarify.
Here, so basically the building as it's submitted and the signage as it's submitted, including the neon, right? Is that,
Yep.
okay.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments and as clarified. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
1 no. Okay, our next item is Ayub Ishak, the Lacey Place, 12372 Old Nashville Highway, rezoning request C2 to PRD.
Yeah, this is a rezoning request. It's, you all have seen a similar request on this property recently. This is different than what you looked at the last time. This is a PRD request. It's about 13.85 acres. It has been requested to be rezoned, just a portion of the parcel, not the entire parcel. The surrounding zoning is a mix of C2, R1, and R2. Land use plan for this area is the Old Nashville corridor area, character area, which would support a mix of the neighborhood scale retail and personal services as well as townhomes and attached residential. Major thoroughfare plan does show Mason Tucker Drive extending as a collector from Todd Lane through the site to connect with Old Nashville Highway at the existing intersection with Rocky Fork Road. This extension would be difficult at that location due to the existence of TVA on power poles in the area near Old Nashville Highway. They have shown an extension. It is proposed to align with the proposed driveway for Talia Trace, which has been approved by the town council. So they would line up at that location. This requested PRD, again, it is different from what you looked at before. There is, it's 100 townhomes on the, with 5.18 acres of the parcel is to remain C2, which basically be all of the Old Nashville Highway frontage. There is a cemetery that is, it's actually a part of the property, it's all part of this parcel. They are including that in the rezoning request, but it will be divided off as a part of the development, and the family would maintain that parcel ownership. We did have a few comments regarding fire hydrant locations and some dimensions of the hammerhead turnarounds, and they have addressed that. The hydrants would actually be shown on the site plans, and that's fine. We did ask for a traffic study, and they did provide that. We did receive that. And there are a few recommendations from that, basically that the road extension will be a 3-lane cross-section. and then, obviously a lineup as we discussed, and then the intersection, when the four-way intersection is created with Todd Lane and Mason Tucker, that it would be a four-way stop condition there. So, that is one of the recommendations of the traffic study, so. Again, you all looked at this last month, and it is a reduction in the number of townhomes. The density is about 7.2 or so per acre. At that, and the townhomes, the type of townhomes and size and all that is exactly what you looked at before. It's just less of them and less land of it. I think that's all I got.
Kevin, do you feel from a staff perspective that what we show in commercial now is sufficient enough for the type of commercial that we would anticipate for Old Nashville Highway?
Yeah, I think so. The depth that they're showing of commercial, I think it would be difficult with the commercial market that exists today, which is very different. I think having a large scale, big box type retail here is probably not very likely. And so having the smaller scale, and really that's kind of what our land use plan kind of calls for, is more of that smaller scale neighborhood type commercial along Old Nashville Highway, which is what you by and large have now, where it has developed commercially, or the more recent commercial developments along Old Nashville Highway. And so you have that depth there, and you also, this parcel is crisscrossed by TVA easements and other things that makes it difficult to do a bigger scale commercial too. So I think that's what they have, and I think I'm trying to find the page. They kind of had a concept plan, which is all it is. It's just a concept. They did have a concept plan in their submittal, which shows kind of some possible building locations and sizes and that sort of thing. It's on page 11. Just, again, it's just a concept at this time, but it does show building locations that are avoiding those easements they have to avoid and that sort of thing, where they can build and then park where the easements are located. So there is one existing commercial use on this parcel that's already in place there. It kind of shows up on the aerial photo. That kind of might be going away or may remain for a while as well. But
I'm going to use a word like strategery here. Was there a densification of what we have, or was it an actual units that were in the commercial area are now gone?
yeah, they're gone. I mean, it went from like 125, I think, to 100 units.
125.
Yeah,
So we weren't putting more townhomes on less space, it's just that we lost space that
Yes.
had townhomes that's now commercial?
correct.
Okay, that's correct.
Kevin, all of them being 1,300 square feet. I thought we were hopefully shooting for 1,400 on them.
I think the minimum is 1,300.
I know Talia Trace, just the frontage on Rocky Fork and Old Nashville Highway are the only ones that are just a little over 13. Everything else in there was above that, 15 and up, I believe.
Yeah, it's the minimum is 1,300. I don't know that they're all gonna be 1,300. I think some of them,
That's what it
some of them
says.
have, that's the minimum,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of them have garages, about 18 of them don't. And so I think that those 18 are probably the ones that are gonna be 13, because once you add the garage and everything, you're gonna be higher on the others. But there are some floor plans. I don't know if they have the square footage shown. And they're 20-foot wide units by 20 by 46 46 roughly.
How many?
They're 20 by 46, so that's what, about 900 square feet per floor on the garages. Those are the ones with garages.
Yeah, ones out garage, they go, they're about 19.
Yeah, they're about 19 by,
36.
yeah, 30, about 38 or so. So they're probably more than 1,300, but I think the ones with garages are gonna be larger, just based on the floor plans that they're showing. The second floor will be a little less than the first floor probably, usually are.
Non-garage units, they would have assigned campus style parking? Is that,
Yes.
no driveways per se, because there's no garage, correct?
There's no garage, they have parking in front of the units. And actually not in front of the units, they would be to the rear of the units. The units are gonna face out, toward Todd Lane, because those are where those garage units are primarily located. And they've got basically four spaces in the driveways, for each of those units. And there's 4 spaces in the driveways for the other units as well. They also have the garages, but we're not counting the garages, so. So they're accomplishing most of their guest parking really with their driveways, but they also have quite a few spaces scattered around the development as well for guests.
Kevin, you said you received the revised traffic study,
Yes.
and did it address anything on the old Nashville Highway entrance other than lining up with Talia Trace?
They do, they actually did a signal warrant analysis there, and it didn't meet signal warrants even after this development and Talia Trace is built. But they did look at that as well, in addition to just the improvements within the site.
Kevin, do you know if they're gonna, is the electrical that's currently there, I know there's a main line, then there's a secondary line back on Todd Lane that runs back across the property as well. Do you know if they're gonna put things underground or keep things overhead?
I
The
don't know.
main lines they won't be able to touch, but there is a secondary line that feeds back to Todd Lane on the back corner, the north corner of the property where the community pavilion is. There is another line that runs in there. And they've
Yeah.
got buildings there, so
And that may be what they're gonna do, I don't know if they show the TVA easements, the two TVA, there's actually 2 separate TVA easements, crossing it.
it's on the this is on the corner by the church as you're going up the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're showing, they're showing a TVA easement right there, 100 foot wide. And they're staying out of that easement that would go from DeLacy, kind of crossing,
This is going from Todd back across, back towards Old Nashville Highway.
okay, well,
So,
if it's not, there's, like I said, there's 2 different TVA easements that they are showing and they're staying out of, so. I'm assuming that's probably a Middle Tennessee Electric easement that they may be gonna do
Yeah.
something with, yeah.
And they may be able to move those, because they are look like smaller lines, but the
Yeah.
main lines, they definitely won't have to move those. I know they're showing a playground kind of in the middle of this drive-through. I don't see anything like a pavilion for, like they did Talia Trace for bus pickup. Keep the bus off on Asheville Highway or off of Todd Lane. That way they can, because I'm sure that's a private road.
Well, Mason Tucker's public, but the rest of it will be private.
Once you get off of Mason Tucker into the property, because I don't think you'd want to stop a bus in the mornings on Todd Lane, because that's where the school traffic's at.
Yeah,
And I'd rather not see one on Asheville Highway.
yeah, I'm sure they'll pick up on them I would assume they pick up somewhere on Mason Tucker, would be my guess, but they may also pick up somewhere else. I don't know where these kids will be zoned for, they probably would still have to, if they go to David Geary or something, probably would still have a bus picking them up. It wouldn't.
More than likely.
More than likely.
Let's do this. I'm hearing some questions that maybe the developer can answer for. So is there someone here that's representing this project that you can forward? If you would, give us your name and address.
Hi, everyone. Chris McGuire with Huddleston Steel, 2115 Northwest Broad Street, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'll try to hit a couple of the questions I heard first. As far as the bus pickup, we're showing a community pavilion up on the northeast side near the mail kiosk. We could easily fit in a bus pickup of some type if we needed to right there. It would be a decent spot. The bus could come down to Lacey and hit Mason Tucker. It would have pretty good access to multiple roads, depending on which way the bus is coming from.
To be able to pull in and pull back out.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'd be able to pull straight through down the road
Right.
and pick up. It wouldn't have to be trying to jockeying around and get turned back around anyway. It'd just have real good access. As for, there was another comment. About the density. We've decreased the density as well. We've decreased the total number of units and the density. I think before we were at about 7.8 or 7.6 units per acre, and we're now down to 7.2. And some of the other revisions that we had made, we tried to keep more of the frontage as C2. Previously, there was some concern of getting rid of so much C2 in this area, and we felt that if we gave a good bit of frontage with C2 zoning, it would lend itself to some commercial development, which we've gone ahead and done sizing that would accommodate for parking and access to work for those commercial buildings that we show as proposed. Also shows the potential square footages. And all those would work with easements, setbacks, and parking would go within the easements.
Could you address what Mike asked as far as electrical and what we've got that way?
As far as what the developer will install, if I had to guess, from some of his other developments, I would say they would likely be underground, but we've not gotten in depth with whether it be overhead or underground electric.
I think in the pattern book here, it talks about Villas of Stewartsboro.
Yes, sir.
Is that the one by St. Luke's over
Yes, sir.
that way?
Yes, sir.
How far are we into that project?
Last I saw, they had 2 rows of buildings done, and they were working through another one, and we're getting another section being reviewed through Public Works and Utilities, if I understand correctly. So it appears to be moving along. I made a visit out there about 3 months ago, so it's been a little bit since I've been out there.
Well, I know it sits off the road somewhat, so it's kind of tough to see when you're
it is.
driving by. And,
Kind of tucked behind that single-family resident.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Other questions? Let me ask this, I know it said a minimum of 1,300 square feet. Do you have an idea of the mix as far as square footage of the units there?
Exact offhand, I don't know. I'm thinking that the small, like Kevin was saying, the smallest are those ones that are fronting Todd Lane. Just to provide a bit more aesthetically appealing view from Todd Lane, we decided not to do garage units and actually have them front Todd Lane. You drive down Todd Lane, you'll be seeing the front side of these nice townhomes instead of looking into their porches and their grills and stuff. But square footage wise, if I remember correctly, I think the non-garage units ones were maybe 1,350, and I think the garage unit ones were 14 plus.
So 1,350 as a minimum on the units that are facing Todd?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, that's about what they were.
I think I counted about 18 units that face Todd.
Yes, sir. Those are the 18 units.
Those are the 18, and everything
Yeah.
else has is a garage.
Yep. And again, that was just for aesthetics.
And they have full pad parking.
Yeah, yes, sir. They'll have 4-car parking, as will all of the garage units. So there was only 250 parking spaces required, and we have 638 provided. So we've provided a large amount of parking for this development for the families and their guests.
And just run us through the amenities that you're proposing here.
Okay. We're proposing a couple. We're gonna propose 2 mail kiosks, one to serve each side of Mason Tucker, so that if people do want to walk to get their mail, they won't have to be crossing that major thoroughfare. We're proposing a playground to go near the mail kiosk and on the western side of proposed Mason Tucker Drive. We're proposing an athletic field. It's not fixated as to what type of equipment we'll be putting out there yet, potentially some soccer goals or something along those lines. We're proposing a dog walk directly across from the athletic field. Up on the connection to DeLacy, we're proposing a community pavilion and another mail kiosk on that side, which would serve this side of Mason Tucker. And we're proposing sidewalks that front all of DeLacy and Todd Lane.
Okay. Other questions?
I'm just trying to clarify something. Your Todd Lane units would actually front Todd Lane,
Yes, sir.
and then you'd have 4-pad concrete parking in front of each one of those units.
No, they would be in the rear.
In the rear, okay,
Yes,
that's what
sir.
I wanted to
I
find out.
apologize.
So, what did we do over there at Portico? Didn't we fence that a little bit ornamentally
They did an ornamental fence in the front yard,
to
yes.
dress it up?
Yeah, and of course, it was along Blair, which is a little bit busier road than Todd, but certainly, so Todd's still pretty busy as well, at certain times of the day. But it was like I think it was 3 feet tall, wrought iron or
Right.
something like that.
Just aesthetics, I think, is what we were looking for there.
Yeah, of course, all of those units were fronting Blair Road in that
So
development,
this,
yeah.
and they didn't have their sidewalks in yet.
Right, because they're completely rebuilding Blair Road.
That's right. So, but this sidewalk, if I'm not mistaken, is already in place, is it not? Not,
No,
up to
on
it,
that
up to it.
Yeah, there are sidewalks on Todd
Up to
Lane
it,
that the city
right.
put in, just to go over to David Urey, but I don't believe this frontage has sidewalk.
I'm just wondering with the parking in the rear, because my concern was the parking, whether it had a garage on it or not, was gonna look a little funky all parked out there.
We kept it
Trying
in
to
the
access
back.
Todd Lane, so coming in from the back.
Yes, sir.
Can we dress that up a little bit? Can we do something similar to what we did at Portico?
Sure, I mean, that's something we could look at, I mean, that's,
I think the developer would be okay with that.
I think it looks much
stipulation.
nicer.
Yeah.
Another thing I read in here as well, it talks about, I've got drawings here, I don't have elevations, true elevations. I'm wondering about your staggered roof lines.
Yeah,
But when I look at your drawings, they don't look too staggered to me.
yes, sir.
Talk to me
They
about
are
that.
staggered. We previously had some pictures of the villas at Stewartsboro in here, but they weren't identical.
Stewartsboro's not up yet,
Well, some of them are.
in the back.
Yes, sir.
Right.
But they are staggered, but you're right, it's hard to see on flat elevations.
So what am I looking at that's different than what they're going to do? That's my question.
The only difference is we noticed that one, on the frontage, there was brick on I believe it was every third eave in what was in the villas at Stewartsboro. And on this one, we ended up adding an entire run of brick along the bottom half of the rear.
The bottom half of the rear.
Yes, sir. It's, at villas at Stewartsboro, the entire rear is hardy. And on this one, we went ahead and did brick on the bottom half to try to,
Is there any back patio fencing?
no, sir, none proposed at the moment. If the developer plans to do that, it would come in at the site plan phase.
So essentially all the back patios are visible, as it stands today?
Within the development,
Right,
yes.
within the development. Kevin and Talia, did we have fenced patios? I was thinking we did, because we talked about the materials that were gonna be hidden.
We did.
I think we did, I'm trying to remember, it's not been that long ago, I can't, I believe we did, and I don't think we asked them to do the fencing in the front.
No, we didn't, I don't
No, I
think.
don't think we did, but we did, I think we did have the patios fencing. And that's typically, of course, you're gonna have, I mean, some of these are gonna be backing up to, most of the internal patios are gonna be internal to the site. But there are a few that would back up to the commercial area, things like that, but you would eventually have some buffer there when that commercial area develops.
Yeah.
The rest of them are internal, or most of them are internal to the site, really, but,
All of them except the ones that back to the commercial, which will have a decent buffer in it once those develop.
These are
Yeah.
private roads,
except for Mason Tucker, they are,
except for Mason
yes.
Tucker.
Yeah.
So trash pickup will come in behind or on the fronts.
It'll
Looks like
be,
they'll have to come in.
they're not proposing any type of dumpster or something, they'll probably just individual,
Right.
putting individual carts or cans.
To Mark's original point with the, I guess, the non-garage units facing Todd Lane, and then the units that are across the street from that, those are the garage units, and that'll be their face or their front, right?
So the ones that front Todd Lane,
So
Right.
the non-garage units are facing Todd Lane with their parking in the rear.
correct, yes, sir.
Now, across the street from that parking are garage units, and it's their front.
Yes, sir.
So their front is looking at, across the street at their rear. So it goes back to his aesthetics of the rear of that building, I think.
I apologize, I didn't understand the question.
So when I first looked at it, I'm going like, man, that's a nice alley, right?
Yeah.
With rear parking.
Yeah,
However, the units across the street is their front door.
yes.
So everybody's front door is looking at everybody else's back door across the street.
Yeah, on that one road, that is correct. And I think that split brick and hardy would help freshen that look up instead of having a all hardy look. I think that'll help keep it.
So you would be referring to page 17?
Yes, sir. Yep, the bottom half has bricking on the bottom half now, where previously we had it approved, or we had it submitted as all hardy.
To Mark's prior point, those would all be staggered because of the elevation.
Well, and to Andrew's point, the people across the street are looking at their back
Looking at
door,
their back door,
and that's
yeah.
where they're gonna park.
Right.
And then, how could you patio that?
I was just thinking that.
I mean, you can't.
What is your plan on the patios for those? I guess there isn't one, actually.
I don't believe that
There is kind of a hatched area
Yeah.
with a little kind of extension next to it, like I'm wondering if that's meant to be.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe an enclosed patio or something
Concrete pad.
between the main house and the driveway. It's just on those units,
Yep.
so.
I think you're correct.
Good catch there, Andrew.
Kevin, with our front yard fence ordinance, would ornamental fencing, in the way I've described it, be something that's accepted in our ordinance or not?
No, it
Because this
wouldn't,
becomes front yard.
it becomes from, it actually, because it's gonna be enclosing, what we talked about would be completely enclosing the front yard, so.
It would not meet our ordinance. per
It wouldn't
se,
meet our
would it?
ordinance,
Okay.
no.
I'm just looking for ways to try to dress it up a little bit.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, we did do that on the Portico Place development,
It's on the main road.
yeah. And that was all the units, because all of those units were gonna be fronting Blair Road.
I think of Todd Lane being a pretty busy road, especially during ball season. And
It is, and it's school, certainly school,
Schools, yeah.
school drop off and pickups times.
I also think it's important with what Mark talked about as far as the patios. I think it's important, and I think it's consistent with what we did across the street to require enclosed patios.
I don't think they'll have a problem doing enclosed patios to be more aesthetically pleasing.
how would you do that on the Todd Lane units?
I do think there is a little bit of area, that's all I can assume, that hatched area that's kind of in between the main house and the driveway. That you could enclose that with a
Does that
fence
help
with
the
a gate.
people across the street or not? I mean, I don't know what I'd rather look at.
Well, that end idea of, where are you gonna put your grill? Right there in front of your cars?
Right. That's why I'm asking about it.
Not just the people looking across the street, but
Yeah,
those units
Comments,
themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Outdoor type. I'm almost kind of wondering why the Todd Lane units need to even be there, to be honest. I think it creates more of a problem than a remedy.
As in just the direction they're facing or them being there at all?
Period.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those hatched areas are proposed padding, and the little white areas between are parapets, kind of dividing them up.
What page are you looking at?
C13, well, go to C11.
Yeah,
Yeah,
11,
It's on
11,
11 shows
On the-
utilities.
It's on
the hard copy.
So if you look at the ones along Todd Lane, there's kind of a dark hatched area. And looking at the architectural elevations, or the site plan, or the architectural floor plans, excuse me, I believe that those are actually patios. And there's a little white line that's going in between each of the hatchings.
And that's the patio, that little white line?
I think that those are dividers.
Those are your
Yeah.
fences. or
Yeah.
your-
Just property divider?
Yes, sir. Just to provide some privacy between the patios.
So this landscaping will be kept up with HOA,
Yes, sir.
and you'll have sidewalks going to each one and a walk path from the main sidewalk up to the front porch of all these that front the road.
Yes, sir. There's sidewalks along all of the private roads that go within the development, and we've also added sidewalks along the main roads, DeLacy Place, Mason Tucker, and the proposed, or excuse me, Mason Tucker proposed extension, and Todd Lane. So it'll have connectivity.
Just, I guess, my opinion on this, from just trying to visualize the aesthetic with the way the sidewalks are shown, as well as, you know, if you assume reasonable groundskeeping, I think it'll be fine.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Andrew? No. You should, okay.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22. I see where you're going for on Todd Lane with the non-garage units facing that way and the sidewalks coming in, creating great landscaping but you also, on the flip side, on the back, you create the lack of curb appeal for those that are living across the street where their fronts now face, their across-the-street neighbor's rear. So it's kind of, like I said, a catch-22. I can see what you're doing. If you were to flip them around, then you've got the rear facing Todd Lane. So there's a challenge there as well.
Plus the whole patio situation.
Yeah.
Where do they put their grill?
Right, that's it,
Outside.
plus the patio situation.
Yeah, outside, so without the garage to put it in.
And if you flip the units across the street around, then the one on the east side of Mason Tucker, you're gonna be looking at the back door of the units. I mean, eventually somebody's gonna be looking at somebody's back door.
Yeah, I'm thinking, honestly, if somebody doesn't like what they think the curb appeal is gonna look like across the street, they don't have to purchase the unit.
Other discussion?
Kevin, since that's on a private street and Mason Tucker is the only thoroughfare the city would have, would need to keep up. If somebody were to complain about a neighbor after they moved in, would that be the HOA or would that be city try to enforce that?
the city would enforce if it was a city ordinance violation, but if it's just my neighbor's, he's got his grill stored where you're not supposed to store it per our regs, and that's an HOA thing. It's really, but if it's.
That's a
if
fine line
there's a-
too,
if
because they're gonna
there's a-
call the city expecting something to be done.
Well,
yeah.
and it's, this, on any of these developments where you have private streets, if they're parking in the street and they're not supposed to, or, and those kind of things, or you know, there is a fine line, but if it's a noise complaint or something like that, then that's, you know, they can call the police department on that, or if it's a, you know, the neighbors, if there's a hoarder or something like that, and they need us to go in there and take a look at it or whatever, that's something that if it's a city ordinance, then we can take care of it. But if it's an HOA restriction, it's the same as if it's for a R1 subdivision with an HOA. Then if it's an HOA violation, it's an HOA enforcement.
Okay.
Other discussion?
Just a quick comment. I appreciate that the group has come back. You know, it was denied on the last reading, and they've come back and tried to make improvements based on our concerns, and I just want to do a quick shout out that I do appreciate that attempt.
What do we have so far as, I know that we've had a lot of discussion here, and we've talked about an ornamental fence, we've talked about enclosed patios. Where are we at with this?
Those are the only two conditions beyond what's already shown on the drawings that we talked to some about the square footages.
And they're at a minimum of 1350, that's 50 square feet,
Yeah.
1,400's not, you're not gonna know it when you walk in there. That's a
Yeah.
pantry almost.
Well, the document actually says 1,300, so if we want to say 1,350, that would need to be something that we add. Because their pattern book is 1,300, so.
And would we need to specify materials for patio enclosure? I mean, typically it's a vinyl fence,
PVC of some
or,
kind.
yeah, some type of
Not
PVC.
wood.
Yeah, not wood,
Yeah.
is where I'm heading.
Yeah. Yeah, we did say enclosure of patios with a with a vinyl or metal or whatever type fence, not a, with the vinyl, or probably I'll say vinyl, just say vinyl. That's what most people are gonna use anyway.
Well, we're looking for materials that are gonna last.
Yeah.
Okay,
One more comment. Kevin, you made this comment, and you're talking about the west side of Mason Tucker here, where the units, the Todd Lane units would face Todd Lane, but potentially flipping the ones across the street. That puts that whole road with backyards, right? I mean, so nobody's looking at nobody's backyard.
On the west side, you could do that.
On the west side, yeah.
Yeah,
So
on
if you
the
just
east side,
flip that building,
Yeah,
here's the other part of that. The old Nashville Highway visibility, until commercial's built, if it gets built, they'll be looking at the back side of those units. If it's not flipped. Right?
yeah, yeah. And really there's a couple other rows of buildings that are in that same situation.
Well, hypothetically, with the positioning of that group of units that we're talking about flipping, potentially, they face Mason Tucker, and right now face Old Nashville Highway, until some sort of commercial building is built there. But if you look at where those commercial lots are, I think if you flip that one, the front is still going to be visible to the Old Nashville Highway.
It will be.
Yeah.
to those buildings.
Whereas the
commercial
ones to the
developers.
east side would potentially be blocked by a commercial structure. I'm not so sure that's not the best way to go. Keep them, I don't, then you're gonna have to bring those in from the rear as well.
Right. That's about eight units, looks like, in that building.
Could those still essentially be garage units if you flipped them and brought them in from the rear?
They'd have to change their architecture, I mean, because
I
those are all
understand.
front-loaded.
Yeah, I
All the
understand.
garages, they'd
I'm
have
not
to change
seeing a
their
lot of
floor
staggering
plans.
going on, so.
They'd have to change their floor plans, at least on the bottom floor.
So you're saying the ones that, along the playground?
Do you have a floor plan that brings the garage in from a rear entrance perspective?
No, sir, I don't have one on hand.
All right,
No.
that's what
But-
I'm
That's-
asking.
That still
okay.
certainly exists, we've seen them.
So you're removing garage units if you flip the building, right?
Correct.
Either that or you could still, I mean, that's,
But we do still have plenty parking if that was something that y'all would like to see. Those, I guess it's 2, 4, 6, 8 units by the playground. If you'd like to see those flipped, I don't,
Well, what I'm talking about, it removes the equation of everybody looking at people's back patios that way. I mean, and the visibility from Old Nashville Highway is not the back of the building. So,
and right offhand, I don't see a problem with that.
I
With
don't
making
know.
that revision.
Kevin brought that up, and I think it's,
that takes care of, they're not looking at their
Right.
neighbor's back door.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also takes care of the people driving along Mason Tucker would see frontages as well.
right.
And it's awesome if you'd have a rear garage entry.
Yeah, we just don't have one on hand. I'm sure that we could get one, but
We don't want much.
I'm just the engineer.
Square footage is the same, just flip it.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that would be awesome.
While you're up, do you know how much area the cemetery the existing cemetery there, I know it's small, how much area it will take up? Is it a quarter acre?
I believe I have it on one of the drawings potentially. I think it was around
I think there's only like 4 or 5.
0.3 to 0.5, somewhere in that area.
There's only 3 or 4 gravestones out there on it, and I don't know
Yeah.
that the families use it anymore.
Well, we said something along the way of that in the second page. I can't remember right offhand.
Yeah, it's basically 130 feet deep by about 80 to 82. Or 62, I can't tell if it's a 6 or an 8. So it's not very big at all. Maybe 10,000 square feet, something like that.
I mean, you still have the problem there. You still have the problem there. That's 6 units. I think those could go away.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve just like it is with staff comments.
Okay, I have a motion to approve as is with staff comments. Do I have a second? Not hearing a second, so motion fails for lack of seconds.
Correct.
Do I have another motion?
I can make one. I don't know if they're gonna like it.
But make it.
I'll make this motion to approve the staff comments and reverse flip the west side units that currently face the Todd Lane units. Add back patios on all units,
Fenced back patio.
fenced back patios with all units. And on the east side of Mason Tucker, remove the 6 units that face Todd Lane and give that to playground space.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
6-1. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just out of respect of our citizens' time, I would like to do a time check and just bring to point that we've spent a whole lot of time on the first two. And I just want you to know we do realize that.
That's fine. I think the discussion was worthy of the time given on both. Both were, don't think difficult's the word, but both were challenging as far as working through and making sure that we get it right for the town. Our next item is item 3 under rezoning request. Hardik Patel, corner of Almaville Road and Seminary Road, rezoning request I-2 to C2.
Yeah, this is just a simple rezoning request, no PUD on this one, just I-2 to C2. It's about 2.94 acres at the corner of Almaville Road and Seminary Road. It's a vacant tract of land. Surrounding zoning is a mix of I-2, R3, R1, and PRD, which is Belmont to the east and Preserve at Stewart Creek across the street. Those are all the zonings in town, and then also RM in Rutherford County. Land use plan would support a medium-density, single-family residential in this area. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Seminary Road as a collector and Almaville as a minor arterial, and adequate right-of-way does exist on both of those streets. With this request, there is a small, roughly about 3,000 square foot parcel of land. It's actually owned by CUD. It is adjacent to this tract. We would, as staff, would recommend that that be considered for rezoning to C2 as well, if the planning commission does want to recommend this request. There is an inactive water lift station on that tract of land. And so we would just, if you do consider rezoning this, the requested parcel, that you consider that as well. Again, that is an inactive station. I don't know if CUD has any plans to ever use that tract or not, or if it's something they're going to want to sell at some point or something like that. And I think from a consistency standpoint, if we rezone this one, we don't need to leave a 3,000 square foot parcel zoned I-2 out there. I did contact CUD. From their staff perspective, they had no issues with that, but they did want to take it to their board, and so they will be doing that, or they're planning to do that at their next board meeting, which would be after the council would look at this on first reading, but before second reading. So, so anyway, I did want to bring that to everyone's attention. That again, that would be our, as a staff, our recommendation. CUD did state they have could meet the 1,000 gallons per minute here. We would need to look at, obviously, either I-2 or C2. We would have to look at some sort of, probably would be more than that at the 1,000 gallons per minute, but we would look at that in a future site plan, certainly. And I think that's all that I've got.
Kevin, the I-2 immediately behind that, that was a recycle center, correct?
It was.
Is it in operation? Is it-
There is a business there now. It's not the recycle center any longer.
Is it
I
an
don't
industrial
believe.
type
It is
business?
an industrial business, yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to ask that. Kevin, was all that done at the same time?
Yes. Actually, this track and all the area to the north, and then there's another track north of that that still has an industrial zoning, that I believe still has a house on it. Was all rezoned, annexed and zoned I-2 at one time.
It was never rezoned, though, was it?
It was annexed and zoned
Be annexed
I-2 when it was
As
annexed.
I-2 at the time?
Yeah,
So it
that's-
hasn't gone through any further?
No, it has not gone through any further zoning, no. And this, and actually where Belmont is located was originally going to be industrial as well. so-
And I think that was it. I think there was
Yeah.
probably a thought process back in the time that the warehousing and whatnot. that
Was gonna move
Was going
westward,
to continue
yes.
this way.
And then that fell through for whatever reason, and then you had Belmont come through, and it was rezoned and developed, and this was what was left. so. Well, this and the 2 tracks north of it.
So in your request for the CUD, if a motion is made for approval, does that need to be pending CUD board approval? Or does it matter?
I don't know that it has to be. I think their use, what they're using it for now is allowed in both zones. They're not going to lose anything from that standpoint, but that's up to you all if you want to put that on there. I think, again, from the staff perspective at CUD, they had no issues with it, but they did want to get the board does have to actually formally approve that, so.
Do we have an idea of the C2 usage that's proposed here?
The developers are here, they
Okay.
may could answer that question.
Well, is there someone here that would like to come forward that represents this project? Yeah, right up here, if you give us your name and address, please.
My name is Jim Sellers. My address is 7811 Ellen Drive here in Smyrna, 37167. The purchaser of the property is right over here. If it's rezoned, we're going to be meeting with Steve Steele next week. They're looking to put a convenience store there on that corner. The sewer and everything is already basically at that site. The building will meet all of the guidelines that would be handed down, some of the examples that they have in buildings. Of course, the subway back of the Crylike building, that's one of their projects. Smyrna Liquors out here, Greg is the landlord of that building. He developed that, put that building up. The Captain D's, the subways out there on Almaville Road, that's one of their communities that they have. So as far as a building and everything, it's going to look very nice out there on the road. Harry also has convenience stores, so this is not the first facility they're putting in. But that's where it's at. It's subject to, if we can get the zoning change, why Huddleston Steel will be doing the work on the building, the site plans and everything. And Steve's already said they'll move fairly quick, but we'll be meeting them next week. Okay?
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay.
So as zoned right now, if somebody wanted to come in with an industrial use, they're free to do this?
Yes.
Would you consider this a softer zoning for this area?
I would think it would be softer than what could potentially be in an industrial zone, yes.
What would you anticipate the buffer requirements being? I know that we've got an I-2 behind it, we've got a PRD and an R3. What would we be looking at when we're, just start with the PRD and then?
Yeah, on the PRD, it would be, if it's C2, it would have a little bit less of a buffer than the I-2 would, because the I-2 would, when you have industrial next to residential, you look at a berm in addition to the landscape. And the landscaping would be the same, you just would have the addition of the berm. On the west side, where you do have, it's a road frontage and you have residential across the street, not having seen their site and how they're wanting to lay things out, I would assume you probably would have an access that's on that road, I would think. There and potentially Almore Road if TDOT approves it, but, you wouldn't, I don't think staff would have any recommendation for an access to Poplarwood. I don't think you have enough room there. But as far as a buffer on that, it's a little, with a road frontage, we would probably want to have we'd probably try to beef up the streetscape there on that side to try to help blocking any parking spaces with lights and pulling in and that sort of thing. And we would try to limit it, in addition to any buffering, we would probably try to limit the lighting at those property lines as well.
So it's something we could certainly address at site to
Sure.
make sure that everybody
Yeah.
was,
And that would be the same if this were an I-2, and then industrial development comes in, we would look at wanting to limit the buffer, adding buffering and that, limiting the light, make sure the lights are shining internally and not externally and those kind of things,
yeah.
so.
I guess personally, I like that better than a machine shop or something else that would have that, industrial right there on Amable Road and right next to a neighborhood like that.
Used to be a recycling center, I think that was brought up, and it's quite loud, trashy, is
Yeah.
the best way to say it. They would pull in and separate all the trash. I remember when it was there, it was years ago. It's now no longer there. I mean, that business isn't there. Kevin, I didn't hear you, I don't think. Did you say there would be or not be access on the 102?
Well, that's up to TDOT, I don't know what the
Well, that's
access would
why I'm
be.
asking the
Yeah.
question. They'd have to get permission for it.
They'd have to get permission
Cut, right?
they would have to get permission from TDOT to have an access
And
there.
with a signal right there,
Um,
seems to me it'd make more sense to bring it in the side. I don't know.
We'll see what the site plan says.
See what the site plan says, yeah.
There you go.
Have to watch that too, Mark, because if they come out and try to turn back towards Smyrna, you're going across 3 or 4 lanes of traffic.
That's right. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
I don't know that TDOT would approve it, honestly, but I don't know.
they'd have to go out on the back corner, because if CUD's got that property, they won't be able to come across it. Water is CUD, is,
Yes.
our sewer there?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else from the commission? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the C2 from I2 zoning with staff comments.
To include.
Second.
To include staff comments, yeah.
Did you get Tim's second? Okay. I have a motion to approve with staff comments and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion carries. Okay, we are now on to preliminary plats. Derby Run Phase 2, Rocky Fork Amable Road. Owner, developer, Charter Commercial LLC.
Yeah, this is phase 2 of Derby Run. This is actually the rest of this development. It's about 69 acres, 69.02 acres, 147 lots. This is, of course, the Derby Run PRD. We had a few comments. A lot of these are standard comments, which we would want to keep, but we'll point out that Rocky Fork Amable Road is a minor arterial, and they are proposing dedication of right-of-way along that as a part of this development. Comment number 6 regarding the critical lots, there's about 3 critical lots we thought met the criteria, and they have designated those 3, so we can remove that comment number 6. Comment number 7, they are showing the right-of-way. We did ask them to label that at 40 feet from the center line. They're showing 15 feet from the existing right-of-way line, and we did ask for 40, to measure it from the center line 40 feet. So we would want to keep that comment. Comments 1 through 5 we would keep as well. Those are just standard comments. But then comments 7, as I pointed out, and then 8 through 10 are kind of standard comments we would want to keep. And then 11 and 12, we can take those off. Those are kind of utility plan, construction plan comments. We can take those off. We did kind of point those out to them, but we can take those off. So it's 1 through 5 and 7 through 10. And with those, we can recommend approval of that plat.
Kevin, I'm hearing this is consistent with what we previously looked at.
It's consistent with the approved PUD, yes.
Anything from the commission? Do I have a motion?
Move for approve with staff comments?
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's approved. We're on to final plats. Our first one is 8286 Rocky Fork, Gambleville Road. Owner developer S. Collins 2 Properties LLC, Blakeney Partners GP, Ashton, Nashville Residential LLC.
Yeah, this is parcels of, it's actually, this is kind of, the developers are trying to clean up a mistake. Some of this development, or this division happened without a plat, and it should have had a plat, and so they're wanting to clean that up. And so there's 3 lots, 3 separate parcels, and this would create 3 lots. One of them is zoned R3, and the others, or 2 of them are zoned R3, and one of them is part of the, actually part of the Stewart's Glen PRD. It's 3 lots. It's about 20 acres total, but 3 separate lots. We had 3 comments. First one, just, again, they are showing the right-of-way along Rocky Fork Elmville Road. They do still need to add the land surveyor's signature and then the owner's CUD and TDEC prior to recording. So we will need to keep all 3 comments, but with those 3 comments, staff can recommend approval.
Okay. Questions for Kevin? This looks pretty straightforward. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion?
I'm going to abstain, Chairman.
Okay. All those in favor of approving this item signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's approved. Our next item is Cedar Creek Townhomes Phase 1, Enon Springs Road West. Owner developer Alcorn Properties LLC.
Yeah, this is just the horizontal property plat for the townhomes. This is for phase 1 of the townhomes. It's about 10.6 acres as part of the Cedar Creek Townhomes PUD. Again, we had just a couple of minor comments regarding again, the right-of-ways are there and adequate right-of-way does exist. We do still need to add the signatures of the owner and the legal counsel prior to recording, so we need to keep those 2. We did receive the 911 approval for the road names, and so that we can take comment number 3 off. So with those further 2 comments, we would recommend approval.
Okay, questions for staff? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the staff comment.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Our next item is Greystone Phase 1A, Rocky Fork Road, owner developer Greystone West and Compass Land Group LLC, CO Andrew Etheridge.
Yeah, this is phase 1A. This is of Greystone. This is 41.95 acres, 150 lots. It's all part of the Greystone PRD. Again, the thoroughfare plan does designate Green Tree Drive as collector and Rocky Fork Road as our principal arterials, and they are showing right-of-way on both of those streets to meet our requirements. We had just a couple other comments regarding signatures and everything. No building permits can be issued to Olive Branch Sewer, and the extension from that sewer is complete, and those are, of course, both under construction, I believe. And then this area is now under the town of Smyrna for water service, but CUD still does provide service currently to 2 existing houses that are in that area, and until that can be taken care of, they did ask to be on the, have their signature block here, and so they have added that. So comment number 6 has been addressed, so that can be removed. Both of those houses are actually not a part of this development, but till the water line can be put in place for this development from Smyrna, they are still providing the water there, so. So again, with removing comment 6, we can staff would recommend approval with the other 5 comments.
Kevin, there's no changes to what we've previously looked at here.
This final plat matches the approved preliminary plat
Okay.
and approved PRD.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve with staff comment.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments from Amy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mark. I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Our next item is Greystone Phase 1B, Rocky Fork Road, owner-developer Greystone West LLC, Encompass Land Group LLC, Andrew Etheridge.
Yeah, this is, again, just Phase 1B of the Greystone development, 70 lots, 18.06 acres. Again, we had some very similar comments to what we had on the previous one, other than CUD is not having any, or is providing any services in this area, so they are not on the signature block for this phase. But we would want to keep comments 1 through 4. And with that, staff would recommend approval.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve staff comments.
I have a motion. Who said that quickly? Not so. I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. It was like stereo. Our next item is Smyrna Commons re-subdivision of Lot 7, south end of Sergeant Asbury Hahn Way. Owner, developer, Smyrna Commons Development Partners, LLC, RREAF Holdings, LLC.
Yeah, this is a plat, there's a site plan later on in your agenda for for 7B of this plat, but this is just an existing Lot 7 of Smyrna Commons being divided into 2 lots, 4.83 acres. We've had just a standard comments regarding the right-of-way for Sergeant Asbury Hahn, which is there and adequate. And then they have addressed comment number 2 by adding the signature and stamp of the surveyor, so we can remove that. And then we just need to keep comment 3, which is again just a standard comment. So with comments 1 and 3, staff can recommend approval.
So at this point in time, all we're considering on this motion is just a subdivision of this or dividing of this lot.
Dividing the lot into 2
Into 2
lots, and
lots.
there'll be a site plan later on.
Okay.
Yeah. For 7B, not 7A.
Does anybody have anything for Kevin or staff on this?
Move to approve staff comment.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Our last item under our final plats is Westover Phase 2B, Rocky Fork, Amelville Road, owner, developer, Westover Developers LLC.
Yeah, this is, against the final plats, this is Phase 2B of Westover, 37 lots, 10.57 acres, and part of the Westover PRD. Again, they are designating, or have, Rocky Fork Amelville Road is a minor arterial, and they are showing the right-of-way there for that. We would need, number 2 is a standard comment. We did ask them to add a 20-foot public drainage easement on the back of several lots because of some drainage, and they have done that and shown it, so we can remove comment 3. And then comment 4 is just regarding the, adding the signatures of the owner and CUD, so we need to keep that. And then comments 5 through 8 are all CUD comments, so we would need to keep those as they work through that with CUD. So with those comments minus comment 3, staff can recommend approval.
Okay. Questions or comments from the commission? Do I then have a motion?
Move for approval of staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
You can get Mike.
Good? All right. Have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to site plans. Kevin, item number 1 has been withdrawn. Is that correct?
They actually didn't withdraw, they requested a deferral. So
Deferral?
if you all can just make a motion to defer that one to next month, that would be great.
Okay, so the first agenda item was Second Wave, Motloo College Boulevard, Sam Ridley Parkway, Jeannie Lane, owner, developer, Second Wave Development. They've asked for a deferral, so I will entertain a motion.
Motion to defer.
I have a motion to defer. Do I have a second? Second from Andrew. I have a motion and a second to defer. All those in favor of deferring this item signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This item has been deferred. Next, we are on to Airline Maintenance Service Storage Hangar, 612B Fitzhugh Boulevard, owner, developer, Airline Maintenance Services, Inc.
Airline Maintenance Services, Inc. is proposing to build a 5,700 square foot hangar on airport property. This is located nearby the intersection of Fitzhugh and 8th, which is also right where Fair Hall 2 is located as well. The location of this would be south. It's currently an existing grassy patch, and they'd be removing a little bit of concrete for sidewalks and installing the hangar right there. Parking required is 6 spaces, and they're showing for 6 spaces with 1 handicap space as well. Landscaping is not being proposed due to the proximity of the airport. And architectural elevations show an entirely metal building, which is consistent with other hangars on the property. A couple standard comments, all to remain, and then we had 2 staff comments. The first one was the utilities comment, has been addressed, and then the second one is more of a general purpose comment, but we just wanted to make note of it that this new building will need a new address for this site. With that, staff recommend approval.
Okay. John, I see you out there. You want to come up and tell us a little bit about this project?
Be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. John Black, I'm the Airport Director, Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority. So this project, as another hangar we're developing with this partner here on the airport, this company has been affiliated with the airport for over 20 years, so we're very familiar with them. It's kind of a nostalgic location. It's between the fire station, which we share with the town of Smyrna, and the air traffic control tower, which used to be the site of base operations when it was Seward Air Force Base. And later, it's actually base operation for Capital Airways when they were at Smyrna. So, like he said, it's a 5,700 square foot hangar facility. The Airport Authority fully supports this. It was approved by the airport board in January. So we're fully supportive, and we're happy to add more hangar square footage to the airport. If I could update you on just a couple other things while I'm here, including this hangar proposal. And we have 6 other hangars under construction that should finish up this year, 2022. We'll be adding 170,000 square feet of hangar space this year. So if you've been to the fish fry at the airport, that hangar is 30,000 square feet. So if you could imagine, this is about 5 times that, the amount of space. So we're pretty excited about that. There's a tremendous hangar shortage, and hangars bring airplanes, and airplanes bring jobs. So we're very excited. Today, we also had a ribbon cutting at Hunter Fan Company, which is in our industrial park. They're a worldwide fan company. You probably have some in your homes. We like to use them in hangars. And speaking of the fish fry, we put 2 in that hangar, so if you come back this year, it's going to be a little cooler. Hangar 692, which is the hangar that the Airport Authority built, we've leased that to Contour Airlines, and they are going to move in within a couple months. That's their 3rd maintenance hangar. They work on regional jets that they bring into Smyrna. And I've got some employment numbers if you're curious about that. They have 205 employees here at the airport. Their annual payroll is $13.5 million, and their average wage is $69,222. So we're bringing good jobs. Along with that, Stevens Aerospace is almost finished with their hangar. They plan to move in sometime in late May or mid-May. They have 48 employees. Their annual payroll is $3.8 million. Their average wage is $71,500. So we love those kind of jobs. I did bring something for you tonight. It's we recently finished up our airport master plan. It says 2020, but we lost a couple of years because of pandemic. So we finished this up, and also in here is a study that was done by TDOT that shows that the airport annually has an economic impact of $232 million. So if I could hand these out to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Okay.
And last but not least, the air show is next June 10th and 11th, the Great Tennessee Air Show, featuring United States Navy Blue Angels. So,
Nice. Thank you, John.
any other questions? Thanks.
Okay, we've heard from staff and we've heard from John. Any other questions or discussion? Do I have a motion?
To approve staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second? Second. Lots of seconds. I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Our next item is Extended Stay America, south end of Sergeant Asbury Hahn Way, owner developer Smyrna Commons Development Partners LLC and RREAF Holdings LLC.
This is the subject site plan that was referenced a little bit earlier about that resub of Smyrna Commons Lot 7. So it is going to be Extended Stay America, proposing a 51,909 square foot building on Sergeant Asbury Hahn Way. Property is currently vacant, would be subdivided with that aforementioned plat. The subdivision plat will need to be recorded prior to issuance of a building permit. As proposed, there would be one access point off of Sergeant Asbury Hahn Way, and the surrounding zonings consist of C2, I2, and PRD of the Copperfield Apartments to the west. Square footage vehicular use area, 62,278 square feet, which would require 6,228 square feet of landscaping. Applicant's proposing almost double at 11,790 square feet. Total parking is 121 spaces, which is 1 per room, and they are showing for 126. Handicap required of 5 spaces, and they're showing for 5 spaces as well. Landscape plan shows type C landscape buffer along the western rear property line, bordering the apartment complex. Shrubbery is proposed around the base of the building, as well as additional shrubs and trees shown within landscape islands and around the parking lot. Architectural elevations show building materials consisting primarily of brick with stone and ephes. The rear side of the elevation would be visible from the entrance ramp, which would lead from Nissan Drive onto South Lowry Street. which is south of this proposed development. That elevation will be required to meet the 75% primary material requirement. Currently, they're showing 61%. So this would be a replica of the smaller side that is facing Sergeant Asbury Hahn Way. They're showing a little bit too much ephes on that side, so staff would recommend cladding it similar to the other short side, which is mostly brick. Standard comments, got a couple of them all to remain, as well as staff comments. Comment 1 is regarding the auto turn, that has been addressed. Comment 2, this regarding the percentage of materials for the entire building. They show the material percentages for each side of the building. We just like it as a whole. We don't see there to be any concern as far as the overall material percentage meeting the requirements. We just want them to show what it is. Comment 3, 4, and 5 were all utility comments. Comment 6, dumpster enclosure elevations can be removed. Comment 7 and 8 were both utility comments, have been addressed and can be removed as well. Comment 9 was regarding the primary material elevations to meet 75% for the Nissan Drive to South Lawyer Street entrance ramp, just to meet our design review requirements, as I mentioned earlier. And then the comment 10 kind of went along with the comment 3 utility comments, and we can remove that comment. So with that, staff comments 1, 6, 7, 8, and 10 can all be removed. And we'll leave the rest, and with that, would recommend approval with those comments.
Okay, questions for Mitchell? What is the height on this? Did I see around,
It's 3 stories.
was
I
it
believe
around
it's
30?
37
7,
feet.
yeah.
Yep.
What type of fire department truck would we use as far as the calculation for turn with that height?
I believe it was the ladder truck that was used, and it's a 26-foot access pavement all around the entire structure.
Okay. Do I have any questions for staff? Comments?
It's kind of nice to have something brought in without a bunch of questions, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Kind of needs design review and.
Yeah, it was on that one side, we asked them to up the percentage a little bit on the brick, which is not a big change, but enough of a change we thought it needed to be done.
Yeah, I agree.
And, but other than that, yeah, it's in good shape.
Well, you would think with the location across from Nissan that, you know, if you had folks traveling in or whatnot, it's fairly convenient too.
It's good use of that space.
Yeah. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve staff comments.
I have a motion to approve the staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Andrew. I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is Legacy Luxury Townhomes, Legacy Court, owner-developer Legacy Joint Ventures.
This is a site plan you all have seen a couple years ago. I believe it was towards the end of 2020 that this did come through. They went to go pull permits, and site plans simply expired. So this is a replica of what came before you back in 2020. And let's just go through it here real quick. The Legacy Luxury Townhomes is a 52-unit townhome complex situated on about 8.5 acres and does have surrounding zoning of a C2, R3, R6, and access to the site would be provided off Legacy Court, a private roadway as well. Square footage vehicular use area, 28,050 square feet, which require 2,805 square feet of landscaping. They're showing for 3,000. Total parking of 2 per unit at 104 spaces required, and they're showing combination between your garage, driveway, and guest parking spaces, about 225 spaces. Handicap spaces are not required as part of this development being a townhome complex, but they are showing for 1. Landscape plan shows shrubs lining Legacy Court and in the rear of the units behind the existing liquor store. Variety of trees and shrubs are proposed to be planted in front of each unit. A 6-foot privacy fence will also be installed behind the 20 units, which back up to the single-family detached homes on Turlow Court. Architectural elevations show building materials consistent with the approved PRD of brick and cementous siding. Optional stone component was part of the PRD approval as well, but is not shown on those elevations submitted. And we had 2 staff comments, 2 standard comments rather, both of which would remain, and we had 1 utility staff comment that the engineer noted they addressed, but we're gonna leave the utilities department to address that, see if it has been addressed to their satisfaction. So we'll leave both those standard comments and then the 1 staff comment to remain as well. With that, staff recommend approval. And once again, this is a pure replica from what came before you last time.
Question for Mitch.
These really don't back up to anything, do they?
Besides the single-family homes on Turlow
Or
Court.
they go that far down?
Yeah.
There's
Do they?
about three houses they'll back up to.
Did, I'm just trying to remember, did we do some fencing on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're showing that. Yeah.
I guess we have a fair amount of open space between the backside.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of floodplain, but that's where they're leaving that open kind of along the creek there and everything, yeah.
I mean, they've already done some site work on this, right?
Oh, yeah, they're basically ready to get building permits, and then it'd been more than a year since you all had approved it, so they had to bring it back to you.
Other questions? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the staff comment.
I have a motion to approve the staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Amy. Have a motion and a second to approve the staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's approved. Our next item is Raising Cane's 380 Sam Ridley Parkway West, owner developer Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC.
Yeah, Raising Cane's is proposing a 3,331 square foot building along Sam Ridley Parkway West and Genie Lane. Property is situated between Racetrack and Chicken Salad Chick and has road access to Genie Lane and a private access drive, which does connect all of these parcels together. Proposed drive-through stacking lanes have the ability to accommodate approximately 25 vehicles, and that should provide adequate stacking to keep it off of Genie Lane. If you can remember, this is a site that was previously approved for another restaurant, and they have since left, so now Raising Cane's has came in to take that spot. Square footage of vehicular use area, 28,911 square feet, which would require 2,891 square feet of landscaping. They are showing for 3,188 square feet. Total parking required of 33 spaces is showing 44, and that would require 2 handicap spaces, and they're showing those as well. Landscape plan shows trees and shrubs planted along Genie Lane, the private drive along the drive aisle. Additional shrubs are shown at the base of the building and in landscape islands throughout the site. Architectural elevations submitted show a mixture of brick, glass, and glazing and EIFS. All 4 elevations have primary material of brick and glass and glazing at least 75.3%, so it does meet our design review. Couple standard comments, all to remain, as well as staff comments. Staff comments 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 have all been addressed and can be removed. We had comment 6 was in our utility comment to provide a backflow for the irrigation line that is shown at the site. With that, staff recommend approval with that comment and the standard comments.
Okay, questions for staff on this? This appears to be very similar, except
Very
with a
similar
different
layout.
type of ownership. Well, company for that matter. Are we good, Commission? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve with staff
I
comments.
have a motion to approve with staff comments from Tim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. The next agenda item, I'm going to return the meeting over to Mark, and I'm going to abstain from any discussion or vote.
Mitch?
Okay. Yeah, this is a retail building, which is proposed to be built on Lot 4B within the Lee Bowman subdivision. This is the last lot to be developed within this subdivision with the potential extra area to develop on the same parcel. The proposed building is to be 10,625 square feet of retail space with an additional 4,150 square feet of warehouse space. This would yield a total of 14,775 square feet of square footage for the building. As proposed, there would be 3 access points, one off of Cheney, one off of Potomac, and then one off of the private road, which does connect several of these parcels together. Vehicular use area for the site, 25,142 square feet, which would require 2,514 square feet of landscaping. Applicant is proposing for 4,500 square feet, exceeding the requirement. Total parking required of 44 spaces, and they're showing for 44 as well. And handicap space requirement of 2 spaces, and they are showing those 2 spaces. Landscape plan shows street trees at the entrance off of Cheney Road, as well as around the eastern and western building perimeter. Shrubbery is shown at the base of the building and within landscape islands throughout the parking lot. Architectural elevations submitted show the building to be built primarily with a material of brick and glass and glazing. Accent materials used include varying colors of steel and limestone. All 4 elevations contain at least 90% primary materials and would meet the design review manual as submitted. A couple standard comments, 1 through 5, all to remain. And then had a couple staff comments to go through. Staff comment 1, we asked the applicant to show the distance of the FDC from the building, and it must be at least 30 foot. It is shown, but is not meeting the 30-foot requirement, so staff comment 1 will remain. Comment 2 was show rim elevations of the sewer manholes has been addressed. Comment 3 was no utility comment, has been addressed. Number 4 was the building location is required to be staked prior to a footing inspection due to the proposed close proximity to the Enbridge easement. This is more so a standard comment, but we want to make it known due to that building essentially being built right up against that easement location. So we want to make sure that's not built within the easement anywhere. Comment 5, we asked them to show how far the building would be set back from the private access drive connecting Cheney Road and Potomac. They have done so. Comment 6, we asked them to provide landscape and streetscape plan that would meet design review. As proposed, there's not enough streetscaping along the public streets, so thus it's not meeting our landscape requirement at this time. Comment 7, staff is concerned with the loading and unloading zone near the access road with the trucks backing into the site from the road with the access to the property across the street in such close proximity. They're proposing for box trucks of the such to back into the site off of the private access drive. So that's where staff's concerned. We're coming in with conflicting trucks backing off the road with other traffic trying to move throughout the site, accessing the other retail sites along this road. Comment 8, we asked them to provide a grading and drainage plan. They have done so. Comment 9, we asked if they are providing access onto Potomac, that they line it up across from the hotel access point, and they have done so. Comment 10 was a utilities comment, and we're going to leave that comment. Comment 11 was another utilities comment. They have done so and can be removed. I had a couple additional comments to go with this as well. We asked them to add a fire hydrant within 100 foot of the FDC. And then another comment of reworking the auto turn to show an apparatus turning left off of Potomac onto the site. As shown, the auto turn shows the truck turning off of Cheney onto the private access drive and maneuvering through the site, exiting onto Potomac. Due to the configuration of the roads, the truck cannot turn left onto Cheney anymore, so they would be more likely coming in off of Potomac, so we want to see how that auto turn would look like if the truck came off of Potomac. Quite frankly, it looks like it's going to be a pretty tough maneuver for a truck to get through the site, taking that left turn off of Potomac, so we got a little bit of concern about that as well. With that, come to the staff recommendation. We have one of two options we would recommend at this. Option one is to recommend approval with the staff recommendations above, and then any revisions to the site plan, you'd leave to the staff to oversee those revisions to the site. Or option B is to recommend deferral and allow the applicant time to revise the plans to satisfy the staff concerns that have been listed above. So as a recap, staff comments 1, 4, 6, 7, 10, and then the additional comments all do remain.
Thank you, Mitch.
Mitch, have y'all talked to the owner already about these concerns?
I have not yet. This came up a couple day or two ago.
These came in with the revised plans that we received, I think, yesterday, so we haven't, we certainly, I think we have talked with the engineer on it, at least on some of it, but, at least, but, so the, well, that's only on those last two that we added. Everything else, they're aware of, yes. But
So you mentioned the concern on the loading, unloading, but what's your resolution? What do you want them to do?
well, I mean, the only way to correct the issue would be to move the loading somewhere else. That it would correct our concern, because we were just worried about conflicts of, I mean, that's a private road, so it's not, they're not going to be backing into a public street or backing out off of a public street. But it's going to function, it provides a lot of access to a lot of buildings, and a lot of properties. And so it may function like a public street because it provides access to like 5 or 6 businesses through there, maybe more, because there's still some land to be developed. So either move that or move it further away from, that's just our concern on that part of it. You have the access to the businesses directly across the street is right there at that access point, right where they're going to be backing in and out of there, so.
I think you have a very legitimate concern, and plus we can't just guarantee it's gonna be box trucks.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, it's not a very deep, I think, what did we say, Mitch, about 15 feet? I got the plan.
For the side of the building off the road,
Yeah.
about 15 feet roughly up.
Yeah. So, and they are proposing a fence there, which will help kind of hide it. So I think that's, I mean, on that side closest to the access drive. So that, I mean, actually either, I think that's not a bad thing, certainly, but, that was just our concern, right? It was just the potential conflicts of a loading zone coming in and off directly into a street like that, even though it is a private street. So,
Tim Slade is sort of correct. We don't know what kind of vehicle may come in and out of there. Being a private street, is 15, what's the size of a box truck?
Be between 15 and 24 feet,
yeah.
depending on how big the truck is.
And when we say 15 feet, that's the closest point of the building. I think it's deeper than that where the trucks would be. I mean, there's room there for a box truck. I'm not worried about that. It's more about the conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to be on the street and then back in off of the street.
Mhm.
And then regardless of what type of truck. And then.
So is the delivery, I guess my question, is the delivery location something that you're saying staff thinks needs to be remedied?
I mean, that was, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We raised, and we raised the concern. They didn't want to change it. They want to keep the building as close to the private road as possible to leave some additional property there for future development, which I understand and I get that. And I'm not opposed to that, just if there's a way we could figure out a different place to put the loading zone, even if you don't move the building. I'm not saying move the building, if you move, I'm saying move the loading zone to the other side or something.
That would be your recommendation, staff's
Right.
recommendation. With this said, sounds like there's some questions coming from a few of the members up here. Is this something that staff would feel better about seeing deferred to work some of this stuff out, or
That's, well,
is
that
that
was,
I guess my question, is that the better solution here?
if you all, if the planning commission wants to see the solution, then yes, that's the only way you can do it. If you all want to trust us with it, that's fine too, but,
I trust you, but I'd like to see it.
okay.
Agree, same.
Trust but verify.
Sure. And that's why, that was our recommendation, why we recommended that. And then and I think that will also give a time to have a
Get those
second look at the auto turn
Second
too.
options, yeah.
Because I think, prior to the Sam Ridley improvements, coming in off Cheney Road was a viable thing, but we've closed that off now. You can't, so the fire hall, most likely the responder would be coming from Rock Springs Road. And so, good chance they might be would be coming from Potomac, not Cheney, most likely. So, they would be coming either down the private access drive or coming in off Potomac. And so we wanted to make sure that, to look at it that way versus coming in off Cheney Road, so.
Any other questions for Kevin or Mitch? If none, it sounded like Tony might have been ready to make a motion, but
I will make a motion that we defer. 1 month. 1
so
month.
we have a motion for deferral.
Second.
Second from, was that you, Tim? Mike? Any other comments or questions? All in favor of deferring for a month signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And one abstention. And I will turn this meeting back over to Chairman Morrell.
Okay, our next item is Seven Oaks Self-Storage, 7 Oaks Boulevard, owner, developer Bob Parks.
This is another development from the Seven Oaks Business Park. They're proposing for the third phase of the development to include 2 additional office, retail, warehouse buildings, and with the addition of a climate-controlled self-storage building in the back. The property was approved for rezoning from C2 to a PUD during the July 2021 Town Council meeting. Access to the development would utilize a single entrance point off of Seven Oaks Boulevard and will connect in the rear to the existing Seven Oaks Business Center development to the north. Vehicle use area for the site, 72,991 square feet, which would require 7,299 square feet of landscaping, and the applicant is showing for over double that at 16,993 square feet. Parking required of 71 spaces, they're showing for 93. And with that, 4 handicap spaces are required, and they're showing for 6. Landscape plan shows trees lining the rear of the property adjoining I-24. Streetscaping, including a variety of trees and shrubs, are shown along Seven Oaks Boulevard, with additional shrubs and trees shown in landscape islands and around the base of the office building. Architectural elevations submitted show prime material of brick on the front and sides of all 3 buildings. Rear elevations consist of primarily metal, and with that, all these elevations are consistent with the approved PUD. A couple standard comments all to remain, as well as a few staff comments. Staff comment 1 and 2 are really standard comments, but we just want to call them out. Comment 1 was that the front buildings are required to be sprinkled. And then comment 2, that a plat dedicating the public easements will also be required as well. And then comments 3 through 5 were all utility comments. Now with that, staff would recommend approval with those comments.
Didn't you say the back building storage?
Yes, correct. The self-storage building, correct.
So, and they want a rear exit out of this property onto the existing, the
Correct.
property next door to get out.
Correct, it's to the north, yep. That's their second exit point.
And that's something that actually benefits both parcels, because the existing development only has one way in and out, so that provides that second access out for that development as well.
Well, they're gonna go out their primary. My concern there, getting to this back storage place, if you have a U-Haul and there's cars next door, it's gonna be tight getting in and out, and the air conditioning unit's on the side of the building, and you're gonna be clipping those AC units. I drove it Tuesday, and there was a truck unloading on that parcel next door, and it was tight for me to get through their pickup truck. And that's with, the lot was full next door. So I've got a very big concern about having a rear exit out of that property and having to go back through that whole development next door to get back out on Seven Oaks. Do they have to have two, Kevin? Or can
Well,
they just
again,
use one?
when this came through for zoning, we looked at that, and again, as much as anything, it benefits, like I said, it benefits both, because from a fire access standpoint, emergency access, having a second entrance into this, because, of course, we don't have it on the drawings or anything, but they're developing further north and northwest down there, and there's no access other than there is an access easement through the townhome tract. It's kind of limited as to the access, really, and so that existing development really only has one way in and out, and so having this connection, we saw as a positive when it came through for zoning, because it provides that access really for this, as well as most developments. It provides that second way in and out if there's an emergency and the main entrance is blocked for some reason. So, I mean, yeah, granted, there's some, I mean, even the aerial photo there, which you may not can see on the screen as easy as I can see on the laptop, there's some cars parked there now, but that access doesn't exist now. So, I think once the access is there.
On that back corner where this is showing going out, there's also an electrical box and a dumpster sitting back there currently.
Well,
So
and-
it's possible that could either have been moved, or this drive would have to be moved.
Yeah, and, well, no, yeah, I think it's gonna be all the same ownership. So, I mean, I think in management, so I mean, I think they can, I think those kind of issues probably, at least the dumpster can certainly be relocated. The electrical, I mean, that can be moved too if it needs to be moved. I mean, like I said, we saw it again from when it came through for zoning. We saw that as a positive thing, because it does provide that second way in and out for the development from an emergency response perspective.
I think I have to agree with staff on that. I like the idea of having that second access there. I mean, will it always be used? No, but if it's needed, it can be used.
I mean, I just think, I mean, I agree with you that the people on the existing development, they're gonna continue to use the building, the driveway they always use, and these folks are gonna use the other one, and there's probably, it may not be used very much, but it is there if needed, so.
Other questions or comments? This site plan is consistent with what we
It's consistent with the zoning. yes.
zoning, yeah. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve staff comments.
Have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion is approved. Our next item is the April bond review report.
Yeah, we've got several this month. First one, Patton Retreat, Phase 2, Section 1. It's about 72.4% built out. Did contact the developer on that. They said they were gonna look into it and let me know, and I haven't heard anything back from them any further. We do have several items, primarily from Public Works, and utilities just needed the sewer as-bills, but, we have had this one, about 2.5 years, so, they haven't kind of reached that 75% threshold. They're getting close, but we would recommend a 6-month extension on that one, so they can get that one finished up. Patent Retreat Phase 1, this one is 100% built out. Same response from the developer on this one, or his representative. We did recommend a 6-month extension on that one as well. We have had that. That one's been in place about 4 years now. I will try to follow up with them on both of those, because that one especially, they're getting to the point they need to finish out. It's 100% built out. They need to get that paved, so I'll follow up with them on that one.
Maybe give us a status of the.
Maybe next month. Sure. Okay. Cedar Hills, Section 2, Phase 3. This one is 100% built out as well. They have said they do anticipate they will be final paving. And this was last week that they told me this, final paving and other items to be completed within the next 2 weeks, so they are looking to finish that up. And so if they are able to do that, which their expiration date's April 26th, I would recommend that one be reduced to $10,000 and extended 1 year as their maintenance bond. And in reality, it's an escrow account, so we don't have to worry about a bank letter of credit on this one. Probably when they get that done, even if it's a little bit later, I'll probably go ahead and start their 1 year maintenance period on that one and reduce that one, so we can go ahead and start finishing that one up. Blakeney, Section 1, Phase 1, they're about 96% built out. They did, the response on that, phase is nearly complete, but construction traffic is still using that phase for access. They anticipate being able to change that this summer and work on basically finishing it up at that time. So I did recommend a 6-month extension on that one to get them, that would get it to November. So hopefully that can get taken care of this summer. Woodcrest 4, this one is 100% built out, and developer did say they were working on that. I will follow up again with them on that one, because as they are 100% built out, that one needs to be finished up as well. If they're able to do that by that May deadline, I would be okay again going to maintenance. Otherwise, we've actually only had that one about a year, so we've made a 6-month extension since they are 100% built out. Buckingham's Place, Section 2, Phase 2, same developer as Woodcrest 4, same response. Again, 100% built out, and so I would have the same recommendation there. If they're able to get done by May 4th, go into a maintenance, but otherwise, 6-month extension on that one. Again, we've only had that one for a year. Verandas of Sam Ridley, this was actually just for a water line that had to be extended to a lot, where their lot was divided. They have finished that. We did ask for some as-built and for one little item there, so we would recommend reduction to that one and just extend that 1 year as a maintenance bond. And then Amerton 3, they're about 96.7% built out. They have paved that, everything's done there. There's some final cleanup items, so we would recommend reduction on that one and extend it 1 year as their maintenance bond. And that's all I got.
Any questions for Kevin concerning the bond review report? Do I have a motion?
To approve the bond review.
I have a motion to approve the bond review. Do I have a second? Second. The motion and a second to approve the bond review. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The bond review report is approved. Staff comments or any other business?
I don't have anything else.
Anything from the commission? We stand adjourned.